Liberty, when it begins to take root, is a plant of rapid growth. Liberty does not exist in the absence of morality. With these words, welcome you all to ABS Creations by your educationalist Chandrakala. Equality is the soul of liberty. No liberty without it. So treat everyone with equal manner. An educational channel with moral values. If you have not subscribed the channel, subscribe the channel by pressing the bell icon to receive the notification. In the previous video, I hope so you understood the concepts of French Revolution and the revolutionary measures to create a sense of collective unity among the French people. And even we have learnt about the Napoleonic Code of 1804. So in this session, we will learn about the making of nationalism in Europe under the lesson The Rise of Nationalism in Europe of Grade 10. As we know today, so when we see the map of Europe at present, we can say different countries like Germany, Italy, Switzerland, France, Spain, Portugal, like so on. But in mid-18th century, there were no nation states. So now we see Germany, Italy, Switzerland, France, Spain, all these countries, they come under the nation state. First of all, what do you mean by the word nation states? A state having a common and a contiguous boundary with inhabitants or a people sharing common language, race and religion. So what is a nation state here? A state having a common and a contiguous boundary with inhabitants or people sharing common language, race and religion. So majority of its citizens, they develop a sense of common identity and share a common history ruled by a strong government. So that is what we used to say it as a nation state. So in mid-18th century, there was no such nation states in the Europe. So for example, now you can see Germany, Italy and Switzerland. So at present, these countries, they come under the category of nation state as we know. But in mid-18th century, so these Germany, Italy and Switzerland, they have been divided into kingdoms. So what are the two kingdoms means? They have been divided commonly into duchies and canton. So Germany, Italy and Switzerland, at present we say it as a nation state. But in mid-18th century, this Germany, Italy and Switzerland countries, they have been divided into two kingdoms. One is duchies and one is canton. So the rulers of these duchies and canton, they come under the category of autonomous rulers. So duchies and the cantons, they are the autonomous territories. When we see about the eastern part of Europe and the central part of Europe, eastern and the central part of Europe. So these eastern and the central part of Europe, they were under the control of autocratic monarchies. So I think you know what do you mean by the word monarchy. So monarchy is nothing but a system of government in which one person reigns supreme, usually a king or a queen. So that is what generally we say it as a monarchy. So autocracy, what do you mean by the word autocracy is that a system of government by one person with absolute power. A system of government by one person with absolute power. So eastern part and the central part of Europe, they were under the autocratic monarchies within the territories of which they lived, a diverse people. So eastern part as well as the central part of Europe, they were under the control of the autocratic monarchies. So within this autocratic monarchies here, there lived a diverse population. There lived what population here? Diverse population. So as those countries, that is eastern and the central part of Europe, and during the mid-18th century, it was not a nation state here. There was no such collective identity or a common culture. We cannot see the sharing of collective identity or the common culture. So the people of the diverse people in that particular region, what they did, they spoke different languages. They spoke different languages and they belonged to different ethnic groups. They spoke different languages and they belong to which groups here? Definite ethnic groups. You understood this? So here, so this group, that is the duchies and the canton kingdom. So there were under these two kingdoms here, there were three dominant groups. So they come under the Habsburg Empire. Habsburg Empire. So this Habsburg Empire that ruled over Austria and Hungary. You can see in the map Austria and Hungary. The Habsburg Empire that ruled over Austria and Hungary. It is a patchwork of what? Patchwork of many different regions. Patchwork of what? It comprises of many different regions and different groups of population who speak different languages. So this Habsburg Empire, it ruled over which countries means Austria and Hungary. Austria and Hungary. So this Austria and Hungary, it comprises of many different regions and the people. So what does this Habsburg Empire include means? It includes the Alpine regions. It includes which region here? Alpine regions. Under that Alpine region, which are the regions are come under this category of Alpine here? They are the Tyrol, Austria and the Sudetenland. So under the Alpine region, the Tyrol, Austria and the Sudetenland, they come under that. Apart from that, Bohemia region. So in this group of area, what type of rulers were there? Aristocracy. What type of rulers here? Aristocracy. So aristocracy is what? A form of government in which power is in the hands of a small privileged ruling class. A small privileged ruling class. For example, we can say it as a noble category of people. So under the Alpine region, the region comes under the Tyrol, Austria and the Sudetenland as well as the Bohemian region. So in these particular regions, so who were ruling means they were ruled by the aristocracy group of people. So this aristocracy group of people, they speak what languages? They speak the German language. They speak what? German language. Apart from that, so Lombardy and Venetia. The other region is what? Lombardy and Venetia. In these two regions, what type of language is spoken means Italy. They spoke Italian language. So they come under Lombardy and Venetia. They are called as what? Italian speaking provinces. So the first region under the Habsburg Empire is that Austria and Hungary. So Austria and Hungary Empire, it comprises of various regions like Alpine region, Bohemia, Lombardy and Venetia. So under that Alpine, the Tyrol, Austria and the Sudetenland. So Bohemia, aristocracy people are there who are speaking the German language. So there are two Italian speaking provinces under the Habsburg Empire. Under the Austria-Hungary Empire, it is Lombardy and the Venetia. Then in Hungary, particularly in the region of Hungary, half of the population, they spoke Magyar. They spoke the Magyar. Other half of the people, they spoke variety of languages. So in Hungary region, half of the population, what language they spoke means they spoke Magyar, and the other half they spoke a variety of dialects. Whereas in the other region, Galicia, what group of people are there? There also we can see the aristocracy people who speak the language of Polish. They spoke what? Language Polish. So besides these three dominant groups, which are the three dominant groups here? One is Austria-Hungary Empire, Hungary and Galicia. All these come under the category of what? Come under the category of the Habsburg Empire. Apart from these three dominant groups here, there along the boundaries of the empire, within the boundaries of the empire, another group of people are there. Who are the another group of people? Is that peasant community group of people. So these peasant group of people, they have been categorized in different groups. They have been united together under a common allegiance to the emperor. Even though there are lot of diversities among them, they are together towards the emperor. So these peasant communities, they were categorized as Bohemians and Slovaks in the north. Bohemians and Slovaks to the north. When you see the map, you can see here Bohemians and Slovaks to the north. To the south, Slovenes in Carinola, Croats in the south, and towards the east, it is Romans in the Transylvania. So what happened? These group of people, various groups of people who have been categorized in the north, south and the east here, they have been binded together only with a common allegiance to the emperor. So, but what is that? The sense of political. So, it is not easy to promote a sense of political unity among these different groups of people. So, it was not what? It was not easy to promote a sense of political unity among these different groups of people. But how they have been binded together means they have binded together with a common allegiance to the emperor. So, this is what we say it as the Habsburg Empire. So now we'll move on to the most important category here, the aristocracy and the new middle class. So as I already told you, so what do you mean by the word aristocracy is that a form of government in which power is in the hands of small privileged ruling class, that is nobles. Particularly we can say it as what? Nobles. So here, socially and politically, which group of people that considered as the dominant class on the continent of Europe is that? We can say it as a landed aristocracy. So which group of people was the dominant class in the continent of Europe? They were called as landed aristocracy. So these group of people, so the members of these group of people, landed aristocracy, they have been united in a common way of life. So how they have been united in a common way of life is that they cut cross regional differences. They are not overlapping the regional differences here. They are cut crossing. That is, they are giving equal response to each group of people here. So in such way they have been binded together. Then they owned, apart from cut cross regional differences here, they owned estates in the countryside. They are owning the estates in the countryside as well as even in the towns they have the houses. You understand this? Apart from that, what type of language they spoke means they spoke the French language. For what purpose? For the purpose of diplomacy. For the purpose of diplomacy and high society. And they have been bonded together. How these group of people, they have been bonded together in the families means with the help of the ties of marriage. The majority. So here, now we can say only a small group of people, they come under the category of powerful aristocracy, whereas the remaining majority of the population were considered as the peasantry community or peasant community. So landed aristocracy, they were considered as the dominant class on the continent, socially as well as politically. So all these group of people, they have been united in a common way. In what way they have been united? They have been united by cut cross regional differences here. They owned estates in the countryside and even the houses in the town areas. They spoke French language for the purpose of diplomacy and high society. And these group of people, they have been bonded together in the family with the help of ties of marriage. And these group of people, they are not a large group. They are only a very small group here. And they are the powerful aristocracy. But the majority group of population, they have been made by the peasant community. So these peasant community of people, they have been categorized in the different regions of Europe. How they have been categorized here. So now you can see here in the western part of Europe, here, so the bulk of the land, whatever the land, agricultural land, it has been farmed by tenants and small owners. So here the small farmers and even the tenants. So bulk of land was farmed by whom? Tenants and the small farmers. Whereas eastern and the central part of Europe, so the land is come under the category of large estates which were cultivated by the serfs, That is, serfs is what? Nothing but they are the group of people who are living in that particular region, in particular landlord's area. They are working there and they are not getting any wages like that. Whatever the needs for them, everything is satisfied by the landlord here. So just serves is nothing but just acting as a slave under the landlord. So these peasant group of people, they have been classified into different regions of Europe. In Western Europe, so the bulk of the land was farmed by whom? Tenants and the small owners. Whereas in the eastern and the central part of Europe, the land comes and considered as a vast estates of land which has been cultivated by the serfs. Whereas in the western and the parts of central Europe, so in the previously we have seen that is Western Europe, agricultural land, eastern and central part of Europe also agricultural land, they have been cultivated by the peasant communities. Whereas the Western and the parts of Central Europe, we can see the growth of industrial production and trade. So we can see the growth of industrial production and trade. So this growth of industrial production and which has led to the growth of towns, what is that? Based on production of the market, existence based on production for the market here, there arose the emergence of the commercial classes. There we can see the emergence of commercial classes. So in the western parts and the central parts of Europe, what is that? The growth of industrial production and trade. The growth of industrial production and trade. It meant that there is a growth of towns and the emergence of commercial classes. Emergence of commercial classes whose existence were based on production for the market. So here, when does the industrialization began in England means it began only in the second half of the 18th century. Only in the which half of this 18th century here? Second half of the 18th century. But in France and other parts of German states here, it arose only during the 19th century. So in the second half of the 18th century in England, we can say industrialization began. But in France and the other parts of German states here, it occurred only during the 19th century. So because of the growth of industrialization, there emerged a new social group of people. They come under the category of working class and the middle class population. Working class and the middle class population, which includes three categories of people. They are the businessmen, professionals and the industrialists. So when the industrialization began in the second half of the 18th century in England, in the western parts and the central parts of Europe particularly, and in the 19th century in France and parts of German state here, there arose the new social group of people which includes what? Working class and middle class population, which includes three categories here. One is businessmen, professionals and the industrialists. In the central as well as in central and the eastern part of Europe. So these group of people, who are those group of people? These middle class group of people, they were very less in number. Till 19th century. So it was among the educated people, liberal middle classes people, the ideas of national unity, following the abolition of aristocratic privileges gained popularity. It is only among the educated people, liberal middle classes people, the idea of national unity. The idea of what? National unity following the abolition of aristocratic privileges gained popularity. So this is the emergence of what? The aristocracy group of people and the new middle class here. The next concept is about what did liberal nationalism stand for? So what does liberal nationalism stand for? So just when we speak about liberalism, the term liberalism derives from the Latin root liber, meaning free. So it has been derived from the Latin word liber, meaning free. The idea of liberalism stands for freedom of individual. The idea of liberalism stands for freedom of individual and equality of all before law. Politically, it refers to representative government. So liberalism, the term liberalism, it has been derived from the Latin root liber, meaning free. So in general, the idea of liberalism, what does it stand for? It stands for freedom of individual and equality of law before law. Equality of all before law. Politically, it refers to representative government. So when we speak the term liberalism, so it has emerged among the two groups of people, that is particularly new middle classes. For the new middle classes, what does liberalism mean is that freedom for the individual and equality of all before the law. So for the new middle class people, for the new middle classes, liberalism stands for freedom for the individual and equality of all before the law. Politically, we can say it is a concept of government by the concerned. Since the French Revolution, since the French Revolution, liberalism stood for various activities. That is, first major thing is what? End of autocracy. As you know, it is a system of government by one person with absolute power. So liberalism, since the period of French Revolution, liberalism stood for what? The end of autocracy, end of clerical privileges, a constitution and a representative government should be formed through parliament. At the same time, inviolability of private property. So these are the meaning of liberalism. It arose from the period of French Revolution. Even though everything has been arose with the help of liberalism, liberal nationalism, equality before law did not necessarily stand for universal adult suffrage. So I think you know the meaning of suffrage, that is right to vote. So we know in the case of France, revolutionary France, which has marked the beginning of nationalism in Europe, the first political experiment in liberal democracy, the right to vote and to get elected was granted exclusively to property owing men. So the suffrage, that is right to vote, was given only to the property owing men. So men without property and the women, they have been excluded from the political rights. That is, they were not given the voting rights. Even during the Jacobins period, all male adult males enjoy the right to vote. And even during the Jacobins period here, the women have been neglected. So however, when the France came under the control of Napoleon, so Napoleonic Code went back to limited suffrage. Women were considered as minor, subject to the authority of fathers and husbands. Even during the Napoleonic Code, so what happened? There was a limited suffrage. The women were considered as minor and subject to authority of fathers and the husbands. So all this comes under the political aspect of liberal nationalism. So during the 19th century, there was a demand for political rights. What was the demand for the political rights here? The right to vote. Economic sphere. Under the liberalization in the economic sphere. So what does liberalism stand for or stood for? It stood for freedom of markets. And the abolition of state-imposed restrictions on the movement of goods and capital. So liberalism in economic sphere is that freedom of markets, abolition of state-imposed restrictions on the movement of goods and capital. So during the 19th century, there was a demand for what? Demand of the emerging. These were the demands of the emerging middle class group of people. So 19th century, the demand of the emerging middle class people was that freedom of markets and abolition of state imposed restrictions on the movement of goods and the capital. So for example, we can see the German speaking regions. So Napoleonic administrative measures. I think you remember the previous concept. So Napoleonic administrative measures, which he has created in the Confederation of 39 States of Germany. Confederation of 39 States in Germany. It has not been changed. So that Confederation of 39 States, each of these possessed its own currency and weights and measures. So the Confederation of 39 States in Germany under Napoleonic rule, it had the different, it possessed its own currency, it possessed its own weights and measures. So for example, a merchant traveling in 1833 from Hamburg to Nuremberg to sell his goods, he would have to pass through 11 custom barriers. He would have to pass through 11 custom barriers, and 11 custom barriers he has to pay a custom duty of about 5% at each one of them. So 11 custom barriers were there. So when he crosses the 11 custom barriers here, he has to pay 5% at each one of them. So whatever the duties were often, they have been collected according to the weight or measurement of the goods. So it has been, the taxes have been collected on the basis of the weight or measurement of the goods. So each region, 39 states of the Confederation of 39 States of Germany, each state, they have a different measure of cloth. For example, And LE, it stands for different length in different regions. For example, an LE of textile material brought in Frankfurt would you get 54.7 centimeter of cloth. So for one LE, you will get 54.7 centimeter of cloth in the region of Frankfurt. Whereas in Mainz, for one LE, you can get 55.1 centimeter. In the region of Nuremberg, he can get 65.6 centimeter for one LE. In Freiburg, you can get 55.1 centimeter. So among these four regions of this confederation of 39 states here, an LE may vary from one region to the other region. That is, the length of the cloth may differ from one region to the other region. So where you will go, automatically what happen? You will go to the area of which region? Area of Nuremberg, 65.6 centimeter. For example, for one LE, you are getting 65.6 centimeter. If you go and get for one LE in Frankfurt region, you will get only 54.7 centimeter, which is not beneficial for you. So this is what took place in the economical aspect of liberalism. So here, because of all these activities or the conditions, it was viewed as an obstacle. It was viewed as what? Obstacle or a barrier to the economic exchange. It stood as a what? Obstacle or a barrier for the economic exchange and growth by the new commercial classes. So the new commercial classes, they argued for a unified economic territory allowing the unhindered movement of goods. If this is there, if the custom duties continuously it has been paid here, it is not beneficial for the merchants. So the new commercial classes, they argued for the creation of a unified economic territory allowing the unhindered movement of goods, people and capital. So in such cases, so in the year 1834, Customs Union, it was formed. Customs Union was formed. Who took that initiative means the initiative was taken by the Prussian Emperor and joined by most of the German states. So in 1834, to solve the obstacles for the economic exchange and growth by the new commercial classes here, so automatically in the year 1834, Customs Union have been formed. The initiative was taken by the Prussian Empire, which was joined by most of the German states. According to this Customs Union, so the measures, certain rules and regulations have been posted. So what was that is? They abolished tariff barriers. They abolished what barriers here? Tariff barriers. They reduced the number of currencies from over 30 to 2. Then created a network of railways for easy mobility of goods and person. And harnessing economic interest to national unification. All these are the measures which has been brought by the Customs Union formed in the year 1834 under the Prussian region, under the Prussian Emperor. So this Customs Union, it is also called by the name as Zollverein. It is also called by the name as what? Zollverein. Now we'll move on to the concept of a new conservatism after 1815. First of all, what do you mean by the word conservatism? A political philosophy that stresses the importance of tradition, established institutions and customs, and preferred gradual development to quick change. After the defeat of Napoleon Bonaparte in the year 1815 at the Battle of Waterloo, European governments, they have been driven by the spirit of conservatism. According to them, these conservators believed that preservation of the traditional institution of state and society, such as the monarchy, the church, social hierarchies and family, along with modern changes, has been introduced by the Napoleon Bonaparte. Most conservatives, they did not propose themselves to return to the society of pre-revolutionary days, but they realized the initiative which has been taken by Napoleon to modernize the nation has strengthened traditional institutions like monarchy. State power has become more effective and stronger because of modernization. Modern army, an efficient bureaucracy, a dynamic economy, the abolition of feudalism and serfdom. They could strengthen the autocratic monarchies of Europe. It could strengthen autocratic monarchies of Europe. So when Napoleon Bonaparte has been defeated in the year 1815 at the Battle of Waterloo, collectively by 4 countries like Britain, Russia, Prussia and Austria. So these grew 4 member countries, they joined together and met at Vienna to draw up the settlement of Europe. So this came to be known as Congress of Vienna in the year 1815. So this Congress of Vienna has been hosted by Austrian Chancellor called by the name as Duke Metternich. So all these delegates of these 4 member countries who defeated Napoleon Bonaparte, so they signed a treaty called by the name as Treaty of Vienna in the year 1815. The main objective of this Treaty of Vienna is that undoing most of the changes that had come about in Europe during the Napoleonic Wars. So whatever the changes has brought by the Napoleon, so undoing most of the changes that had come about in Europe during the Napoleonic Wars. So what are the changes has been brought? So the Treaty of Vienna. So you can see the map of Treaty of Vienna in 1815, European map. So in such cases here, the Treaty of Vienna in the year 1815 speaks about the salient features. The major features is that Bourbon dynasty has restored to power. So previously under Napoleonic Wars, it has been abolished here. But here, after the Treaty of Vienna, after the Napoleon Bonaparte has been defeated and the Treaty of Vienna has been signed here, Bourbon dynasty restored to power. You can see in the map here, that brown color part. The France has disposed of its conquered territories. Whatever the France has extended its territory, it lost all its territories. A series of states have been set up on the boundaries of France to prevent French expansion. So under the Napoleon Bonaparte, the territory of France has been extended to the neighboring countries, as we know in the area of French Revolution. So according to the Treaty of Vienna, Bourbon dynasty has restored to power. France has lost its territories. A series of states have been set up in the boundaries of France to prevent France's expansion again. And at the same time, Kingdom of Netherlands, which included Belgium, was set up in the north, and Genoa was set up in the south for preventing French expansion in future. And even Prussia was given new territories in the western frontiers, that is in the western boundaries of Prussia. New territories have been given to Prussia, and even a portion of Saxony was given to Prussia. But the northern part of Italy came under the control of Austria. The Poland came under the control of Russia. But the German Confederation of 39 states, which has been set up by Napoleon, was left untouched. So these were the different features or the measures which has been signed by the Treaty of Vienna in the year 1815. So the Bourbon dynasty has restored its power. Bourbon dynasty has restored its power in France. France was disposed of its conquered territories. Kingdom of Netherlands, which included Belgium, was set up in the north, and Genoa was set up in the south for preventing French expansion in future. Prussia was given new territories, including a portion of Saxony. Austria got controlled over northern Italy. Russia got Poland, and the German Confederation of 39 states, which has been set up by Napoleon Bonaparte, was not changed. So the main intention of this Treaty of Vienna in the year 1815 is that restore monarchies. What is that? Restore monarchies which has been overthrown by Napoleon, and to create a new conservative order in Europe. The main objective or the intention of Treaty of Vienna in 1815 is that restore monarchies which has been overthrown by Napoleon and to create a new conservative order in Europe. So when we speak about the conservative regime, so what does it mean by? So the people of the conservative regime, they belong to autocratic. They were autocratic. They are not able to tolerate the criticism and dissent. They adopted censorship of the press for curbing the liberal ideas. They adopted the censorship of press for curbing the liberal ideas. They discouraged any questions that challenged their legitimacy. The conservative regimes, which has been set up in the year 1815, were autocratic. They did not tolerate criticism and dissent. They adopted the censorship of press for curbing the liberal ideas. They discouraged any questions that challenge their legitimacy. So when we speak about the revolutionaries, when this was taking place, when the conservative regime was taking place, again there arose the revolutionaries in the year 1815. During the years following 1815 here, the fear of repression drove many liberal nationalists underground. So the idea of liberalism, so the revolutionaries of year 1815, they stood for idea of liberalism and they started opposing against the conservative regimes again. They started, the revolutionaries, they sought an idea of liberalism and they were against the conservative regimes. So in such cases, secret societies have been formed. Secret societies, they have been formed in many European states, mainly to train the revolutionaries and spread their ideas. At the same time, when they trained the revolutionaries and spread their ideas, they wanted to oppose monarchical government. They wanted to oppose what? Monarchical government, which has been established after the Vienna Congress of 1815. And they were fighting for liberty. Mainly, most of the revolutionaries, they were fighting for liberty and freedom from autocratic rule. They were fighting for liberty and freedom from autocratic rule. So in such cases, one of the most important person called by the name as Giuseppe Mazzini, who was an Italian revolutionary, he was born in Genoa in the year 1807. So one of the most important Italian revolutionary, he was called by the name as Giuseppe Mazzini, who was born in the year 1807 at Genoa. He was acting as the member of the secret society of Carbonari. He was acting as a member of the secret society of Carbonari. At the age of 24 itself, he has been sent to exile for attempting an upsurge in Liguria. He subsequently, when he has sent to exile, that is, to leave his own country, automatically he founded two secret societies. He founded two secret societies called by the name as Young Italy in Marseilles and in Young Europe in Berlin. Young Italy at Marseilles and Young Europe in Berlin. So Marseilles and the Berlin are the most important regions where he found the two secret societies, where he trained the revolutionaries and started spreading his own ideas. So Giuseppe Mazzini, he believed in the unification of Italy into a republic. He believed in the unification of Italy into a republic. So mainly he believed that God has intended nations to be the natural units of mankind. So he believed in the unification of Italy into a republic. So unification is not only on the basis of Italian liberty, but with wider alliance of nation. He believed that unification of Italy is not only on the basis of Italian liberty, but with a wider alliance of the nations. So apart from that, following this, so he formed several secret societies have been established in the regions of Germany, France, Switzerland, Poland. So various secret societies have been established at Germany, France, Switzerland and Poland. So Mazzini's relentless opposition to monarchy and his vision of democratic republics, it has frightened the conservatives. So he was considered as a vociferous enemy of monarchical form of government and conservative regimes. So because of his relentless opposition to the monarchy and his vision of democratic republics frightened the conservatives. So in such cases, Metternich, he called Giuseppe Mazzini he described him as the most dangerous enemy of our social order. So the most dangerous enemy of our social order is that Giuseppe Mazzini, who has been called by the Metternich. So Metternich has called or described Giuseppe Mazzini as the most dangerous enemy of our social order. So this was one of the most important activity which has been carried out by Giuseppe Mazzini as an Italian revolutionary. So I think you understood the concept of the making of nationalism in Europe. You can test yourself by reading these questions. Like, what are the political, social, and economic ideals supported by the liberals in Europe? How did the growth of industrialization change the social and political equation of Europe? Describe the features of landed aristocracy class of European continent. What are the main features of liberalism during 19th century? How was the Habsburg Empire a patchwork of many different regions and people in Europe? Explain the features of Treaty of Vienna in 1815. Who was Metternich? What was his role in Congress of Vienna? What do you mean by conservatism? What role did Giuseppe Mazzini play in the Italian unification? List out the features of the conservative regime. So I have given the various link, the previous videos link, which is related to the rise of nationalism, the introduction part of the particularly French artist, and the French Revolution and the idea of nation. Part 1 has been given in the description. You can go through the description to understand the previous concept and to go through the second concept. If you like this video, you can share it, you can comment it, you can subscribe it. Thank you.